right, here we are back at the sink, ready for another honing video session. Okay, so we're not going to be doing honing today. What we're going to be doing is some lapping. I constantly see posts and I constantly get questions, you know, how do you lap? How do you lap your stones? This and that, this and that. All right, so here we have a stone. Here we have a lapping plate. Here we have another lapping plate. This is a rubber plate, not plate, but, you know, pad, rather. That's a drain. I'm in the sink. So I put down the pad, right? Now, I don't know if you can see, but the sink isn't flat, right? The rubber pad helps keep this plate in place, right? There's a gap under the plate, so I have to be cognizant of that because I don't want to push too hard on it. Now, the pad is going to absorb a lot of that pressure, but it would be possible under extreme pressure to flex the plate. Some people will lap this way, right? And I will do that also, but I usually start off like this. All right. Now the stone has been sealed. You can see a cashew lacquer, nice cower, right? It's a nice piece. All right, and you know, a bit of cower here, up in the corner, right? And otherwise everything looks good. You can see the water is shedding off over here on the edge from the overspray. Well, not overspray, I do it by brush, but whatever. You know, extra lacquer that gets on the stone. And I just come in here. Now, I'm not using a lot of pressure. What's the blue thing? That's my hand. I'm using a glove today. Among things, I also play guitar, and I've been doing a lot of lapping, and my skin's been getting beat up. So we check, right? See how we have new texture in the stone here, got the old on the edges, got some lacquer over there and this and that. Now, you'll find a lot of people will tell you, oh, draw grids, you know, and, you know, let me show you something. I have a pencil, right? See the lines? And when you make grids, and there's nothing wrong with grids. The thing is you can't rely on grids, and that's my point. Okay? Normally I would do this with the water running, but the sound isn't great. So you put the grid on. The idea is that you would lap this, right? Until the grids are gone. And then the grids are gone, and the rumor is that the stone is flat. But you see this? Grid's gone. But look, over here, and here, and there, right? I can also tell you that the middle isn't flat also, right? So grids get you started, but grids do not necessarily tell you the whole story. Now I'm going to leave the water running here, and I'm going to explain. You want to do this under running water. Right? For the sake of the video, I want to turn the water off because of the sound, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to, oh, look at this, I got a little ding in the stone, and I have to deal with that. So this is actually a pretty good thing to show you guys. All right, so the reason you want water running, and I have the plate up a little bit so the water is running downhill. It's carrying the swarf from the stone away. Swarf, slurry, whatever you want to call it. And that stops you from getting a buildup under the stone's working surface, which can, like if the buildup is on the edges, right, it's going to lift the stone there, right, and you wind up with a not flat stone. What you want is maximum contact on the plate. So at some point in the lapping, I put the stone on an angle to chamfer the edges. Now, there's no rule. You don't have to do the long sides first. I do usually. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. And I'll get to this chip now. Now, what I do is I take my loop, and I have one here at the sink. It's a Schneider 4X. It's from an old film processing machine. And I'll scan the top of the stone, and I'll look for striations made by the diamond plate. When I see continuous lines from edge to edge, from edge to edge, then I know I'm pretty flat. Now I have a, what do you call it, reference straight edge that I use to final check, but right now I have more work to do, so there's no point in like really getting like OCD on the flatness, because I have this big honking chip in the top. So I'm going to lap down a little bit more here. Now, if you're wondering, this is a 140 plate, right? A Toma. This is my secondary. I don't know how to explain it to you. This is a 140 and this is a 400. All right, so it's a dual plate that I made. I buy the 140, I put the 400 on it. This is my worn plate, I guess you could say. So this is like heavily worn. This cuts faster, leaves more marks in the top. The 140 on here is still pretty coarse, but it's smoother and leveler. So I don't leveler, it's more level. And I get a smoother top out of using this, and then I flip to the 400, which is very worn, and I get a working surface out of that, right? I don't get crazy. I don't subscribe to this mentality on the forums of polishing stones to higher and higher grits. And I find it defeats the nature of the stone's particulate. It's a lot of wasted energy. I don't see any advantage to it past a certain point. In other words, I'm not getting better edges by, taking a Jnat, for example, up to 2K. It doesn't happen, right? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lap down a little bit more on this. And you learn feel after a little while. Well, after lapping, 40 or 50 stones. You get a feel. You can feel that the stone is getting hit stem to stern, port to starboard. All right, so I'm going to start bringing that chamfer in. Okay, you can see now the chip is still there, but it's much less invasive. I'm going to bring the angle of the chamfer down a little bit. Okay. So I don't know if you can see now, but the chamfer is now, there's my light, my LED. Yeah. The chamfer is now completely surrounding the chip. Let me go a little bit more. So this preserves the material of the stone. If I was to just deck this down to clear the chip, you can see it's gone now. If I was just going to deck it down, well, there's still a little trace there, so I'll do a little more work. What happens is I have to take off too much of this dimension all the way across. Not necessary. Preserve as much of the stone as possible. I make the extreme chamfer. All right, I take the chip out, and then with normal lapping, the dimension of the chamfer will decrease, and eventually, after lapping, you will have that full dimension. And at that point, you would be where you would be if you lap straight down. The thing is, in the meantime, you got to use all that good stone. You didn't just throw it down the drain. Right? So you lose like a 1/16 of an inch of width, or maybe 3/32 on the working surface. But you preserve a lot of the depth that you would otherwise wind up taking off. All right, so this is looking good. So, oh, by the way, this is cold water or room temp. Never, ever lap under very warm or hot water. Right? You will cause problems with your stone. You can wind up creating cracks. You know, people will tell you, oh, the stones will lap faster. They might lap faster, but they can crack. You don't want to do that. So what am I doing now? I'm taking the corners down. Wherever you have points, that's a liability. With the constant wet and drying cycles, those points, they're very, very, tiny dimension at the end. They will corrode. Erode? Yes, they will erode, not corrode. Steel corrodes, stone erodes. And what happens is you can create a chip with that, right? So when I'm cognizant of what I'm doing and I'm paying attention, sometimes when I lap, I'm in a rush. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to point out that this is what you should be doing every time, taking the corners down. Now, when I say you should be doing, I'm going to say that if you don't do it, nobody dies, but it's your stone, you can do what you want. Some people, for example, don't seal their stones and swear that it's not necessary. I have sold thousands of stones. I have lapped more stones than most people. I have seen more problems with stones than most people. I have honed on so many Jnats, it's not funny. I can tell you something. Sealing a stone is a great idea. Do you always have to do it? No, but I don't know when you don't need to do it. So if you do it all the time, you're covered. And it's like this little mini extra step that you do, and it doesn't have to be cashew lacquer like this. You can use nail polish or whatever. And you want something that's going to soak in, though, and create like a layer. You don't want to put a candy coating and where it sits on top. So if you use nail polish, you want to put like a lot of nail polish thinner in it. All right, so it gets into the stone. You want it to bond with the rock. All right, create strength, waterproofing. It's very helpful. Makes perfect sense to do stuff like that. So when I say you should do it, I should say that differently. I suppose I should say, it's really something you should consider. This one's basically done. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to run a loop over it. I'm going to let it dry and then check the surface and make sure everything is Gucci. But that's it. That's what I do to lap. Like I said, sometimes I put the stone down here and then I lap on top. And then what have you. What you wind up with is like the stone's not going to flex. So theoretically, maybe you could get, a more perfectly flat surface. I know how much pressure I'm using, and I'm not bending my plate, but lapping like this is also good. And it's something that I do quite often, just to break up the monotony. So I haven't checked this yet with a flat straight edge, my Starrett. But so what my next step would be, right? This is the 140 side of my double plate. After that, come in here, smooth it out a little bit. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I'm gently rolling to the chamfer. When you make the chamfer, it's pretty much like like a straight angle. So what I'm doing here is I'm softening that. And there's a reason for it. All right? So that's that. I'm probably going to have to do this again, but I mean, I might have to. It depends on whether or not the straight edge tells me it's okay. So now this is the 1/400 side. Previously, that was the 1/140 side. So what I'm doing is I'm gently lifting up. Okay? All right, so if this is proofed out by the straight edge, then I'd be good to go. Why was I doing that last bit? I want a little bit of roll to the chamfer because when you make this, you have striations along that edge. All four edges, but you have striations. So you have striations across the top, you have striations here. Those striations meet at that intersection, which is a straight line. When you lap to a finer plate, like a 400, you're going to alleviate most of whatever distractions could be waiting for you there. By rolling it, though, okay, you're really minimizing that, right? Theoretically, you could just do 400 on here like this, but I find that by rolling over the chamfer line, you make a smoother edge to have your blade. Remember, your blade is going to be coming across this, all right? So you really don't want to have a sawtooth at that intersection, right? So that's why I do that. I think it's wise. I know it's helpful. Under magnification, you can see the difference. If you put it on a microscope, get some high magnification, like over 800x, like real optical, not, those USB microscopes. I'm talking about like real optical reflected light microscopy. You can really see what's going on there, all right? Rolling it over makes it a lot smoother. It can't do anything but help your honing. That's it. That's the lapping exercise. Hope that was helpful. This is something that we got to do. It's not particularly fun, but it helps keep our stones in the game, and it helps us make better edges. So listen, make sure you get out there, make some good edges, have a great time, keep everything fun. Until next time, take care. Talk to you soon.